Until recently, February 14th was simply Valentine's Day, but starting a year ago today, it now comes with a much darker distinction. On February 14th, 2018, 17 students and staff were shot and killed at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. And as you'll remember, in the days that followed, the survivors of that shooting made their voices heard across the nation.
I say we will not stop until every man, every woman, every child, and every American can live without fear of gun violence, and to that I say, no more.
No one could comprehend the devastating aftermath or how far this would reach or where this would go. For those who still can't comprehend because they refuse to, I'll tell you where it went. Right into the ground, 6 feet deep.
Hold them out! Hold them out! Hold them out! And that they did, as that student-led movement was credited with at least 15 Republican incumbents with A ratings from the NRA getting ousted by Democrats with F ratings in the House back in November. Students also helped to enact major reforms with dozens of new gun laws passed on local and state level, including in Florida, where in the past year they managed to raise the minimum age to buy an AR-15, enact a red flag law which lets certain officials take guns away from those who exhibit violent behavior. Massachusetts passed a similar law last year as well. And even Congress is finally getting back into the swing of things, last week holding the first House panel review of any proposed gun control measure since before the Sandy Hook school shooting in 2012. Unfortunately, the main headline that came out of that was this guy.
Greatest driver of violence in the circumstances that I indicated was not the firearm. H.R. 8 would not have stopped many of the circumstances I raised, but a wall, a barrier on the southern border may have.
You know, a week later, I still can't get over that, because just as a border wall could not have protected the 17 students and teachers killed in Parkland, it would not have helped the 10 others killed months later at Santa Fe High School in Texas, or the 12 people murdered by a Marine veteran in Thousand Oaks, California, or the 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. But stricter gun laws certainly might have. As the parents of Parkland victim Joaquin Oliver wrote in an op-ed in today's Globe, we learned that if Florida had enacted the same gun laws that Massachusetts has, our son would likely be alive today. Since Parkland, another 1,200 kids have been killed by guns nationwide, according to the nonprofit news organization The Trace, which started a website this week. It's called sinceparkland.org, and it highlights the names, faces, and stories of many of the victims. According to their statistics, more than 80 of those killed were infants and toddlers. But as for those Parkland kids, thankfully, they are fighting on.
We have people lobbying in D.C., teenagers just like us lobbying in D.C. every day to speak out on issues like H.R. 8, and we want to make sure that these pass because these can and will save lives.
I plan to make sure that nobody else, no matter the zip code, has to live in constant fear of gun violence, and I plan to make sure that our generation is the last generation that has to live with the constant scourge of gun violence.
That's a future we could all feel better living in.